2022 is wrapping up, so it is a good time as ever to look back and reflect on the year, and that's exactly what we're doing every day this week. We're going to be ranking the standout moments in sports. We had music yesterday. We've got movies, culture, etc. Okay, now today we bring in somebody to break down the biggest news stories of the year, and joining me now is Mr. Mo Kelly from KFI Radio. Really, Mo, I can have you here all week because you can do it all. You already know I've had you on. You and I have talked sports. We talk movies. We talk politics. We talk everything. Yeah. So it's great to have you in the building. We're going to start with the election here locally.
Sure.
We have a new mayor. We have a mayor, and her name is Karen Bass. Let's talk about this election, historic, as well as a bit different in that you had Rick Caruso throwing all the money out there to try to compete. So just your take on this election.
Well, there's symbolism and there's substance. The symbolism, yes, African-American woman. The symbolism of the second African-American. Now we need the substance. Can she handle the homelessness? Can she handle the crime? And it's more than can she handle it. Can she make a noticeable, a marketable improvement that we can walk out in Los Angeles? And I live like down the street from here, so I'm one of her residents, if you will. I want to be able to say that Los Angeles is better because of her.
Well, okay, let's stay there for a minute. You lead me to my next one. One of the things she wanted to tackle, declaring a state of emergency, if you will, was homelessness.
Yes.
Obviously, any mayor, Mayor Garcetti, wanted to do that as well. But another thing she's going to have to tackle is city council, right? That was, we had the racist scandal that happened there. It's been one of those things where it's kind of lost the trust of the people. We're still going on right now. Kevin De Leon, folks are calling for him to resign. He won't. Nury Martinez was kind of the impetus of this, and yet the former president, she kind of is gone now. Just this was something that's going to be a challenge to get past as a city, as well as Mayor Bass. What do you think is going to be her role involved with this?
Well, it's deeper than that. We have to remember the trial of Mark Ridley Thomas is still coming up.
Yes.
So the issues of the city council are more than racism. It's deeper than just the last week, the last month, the last year. And also, Mayor Bass is going to have to be able to show that she's above the fray, not necessarily taking sides or getting in the fray, but can also work with city council to get some of her initiatives done. Because if she can't get it done, it will fall on her, no one else.
That's clearly one of those things that, hey, welcome in. You know, it's congratulations.
Get to work.
All right, we're going to go here now. This is more pulling out largely, and it does affect us here in the state because we're being a sanctuary state. We're talking about Roe v. Wade. It got overturned in a historic Supreme Court decision over the summer. How has that decision played out this far? How did it affect the midterm elections where we saw some of these states that were going to be already saying they're going to be hard on it? They kind of lost, if you will. So how did that affect where we are today, politically speaking?
If you're a Democrat or support the Democrats, you almost thank, and I put that in air quotes, thank the Republicans for that Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. It animated Democratic voters, it inspired Democratic voters, and gave them the reason to come out in the midterms. And I don't believe the Democrats hold on to the Senate or even the slim margin that they're the minority party in the House, if not for the overturning of Roe v. Wade. That said, it's not something that the Democrats can campaign on going into 2024.
Well, let's stay there for a minute. This is kind of before we get to the fifth one or fourth one. If they can't campaign on that, what would you say if you had to project early messaging? Because folks have said that the Democrats have been having bad messaging and kind of putting that out there. What would be something moving forward in a couple years, 2024, you think, an early jump on that? What would you say?
I would say, if I were a Democrat, I would say, well, what is the Republicans' alternative? The Republicans are saying that the Democrats are bad or they're weak on economy and foreign policy, they're weak at the border. But what are the proposed solutions? We know back in 2020 that the Republicans did not even have a platform coming out of the RNC. So it's incumbent on the Democrats to say, this is what we're for, this is what we're fighting for, but also highlight, if that's the case, what the Republicans are not for or not even offering. Because far too often, oftentimes they look at the Democrats as being the problem solvers while not asking the Republicans the same.
All right, well, I got you early on that one, Mo. I got you already talking about 2024. Let's go to something that just really happened very recently, which is Brittany Griner being released. She was in prison, of course, in Russia, and it really transcended sports. It became a sincere geopolitical issue, and now she is home. She's saying she wants to get back to playing with the Phoenix Mercury. Let's talk about just the release of her, the difficulties that it involved when you're talking about, of course, folks are saying, hey, we need to go get her. Well, what about other folks who are detainees? the challenges that really went into that.
Yeah, it's far more complex, I believe, than most Americans, me included, can understand because we don't know all the variables. If you want to say, why is Paul Whelan still in Russia?
Yeah.
Fair question, but also acknowledge that Trevor Reed, also a Marine, is home in the past 6 months because of the Biden administration. And we don't necessarily know what Russia was asking for. If they were willing to trade Brittany Griner for Victor Bout, which they did, it does not mean that they weren't asking for even more different tariffs or different things that the United States was not prepared to give for Paul Whelan. It's not just what we want, but also what Russia is asking for.
Yeah, there's two sides of this coin, right? And it becomes very difficult when we're not in those negotiations room. Mo, last one, fifth one. This one, we're going to go global here. Stay there. You're talking about protests that were happening internationally from, of course, the war in Ukraine, that being one of its separately, just really a war, and then protests around that. You had the women's protests in Iran. You had the zero COVID protests in China where they hadn't really protested in over 30 years. What has really awakened the people across the world, if you will, to kind of speaking out and saying, you know, we've had enough, or this won't happen on my watch?
Let's take a larger and longer view of history. You can't look at what's going on in China and not acknowledge maybe Tiananmen Square of 1989.
Yep.
You can't look at what's going on in Iran and not acknowledge the Arab Spring of 10 years before. It doesn't mean that they're connected, but it does mean that it's a part of the consciousness and understanding that these movements today aren't necessarily a direct result of what came before it, but it's not done in absence of it. We can look at what's going on in the United States today and say, like BLM, say what you want about it, but BLM does not happen without the civil rights
100%.
movement. And the fight today about LGBTQ plus rights don't happen without the civil rights movement, even though they're not connected. So I would look at Iran and say, okay, that is reflective of a social progress around the world.
Yep, and we'll continue to watch that, monitor that as well. It's great to have you in.
Good to
Happy
see you,
holidays to you, brother. Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
New Year. Mr. Mo Kelly, check him out, KFI. And now that he just, he's right down the street, he said, we're going to have you in more often, man.
I'd appreciate that.